Leslie was really that worried about me? He's in love with you, dude. You didn't know this? Hey internet, it's Jessica and welcome back to your dry delight. So, we're going to continue on as Ritcher is leaving his meeting with Mayor after he kind of figured out he was a detective and everything was just fake. But it's very surprising his reaction towards Ritcher being a detective and undercover cop. He's just like, yeah, it's fine. He wants to make friends, like allies with the police, and I think it's just because he wants to have some sort of like a gain on them and also at the same time some advantage towards his business so that he doesn't get caught when he's making the distillery of the alcohol and stuff like that. So he's a smart guy, not killing off Ritcher right away. So let's see what happens. Mayor's man shuffles me along to the exit before I have a chance to reply. My real duty? What the hell does he mean by that? Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but those words stick to the back of my mind, even as I leave the speakeasy to reassure the officers I'm all right and defuse the situation. Hopefully I'll get a chance to see Mayor tomorrow and ask him then. My heart's still pounding from the end of our talk. I think it's just like a matter of... Obviously there's like feelings going on here, so it's gonna be a matter of like his job and like his feelings towards this guy, but like they just met, so we'll see. When I finally get home and roll into bed, there's no way I can fall asleep, so I spend the night restlessly tossing and turning. I'd rather be hungover than this, Jesus. Infatuation doesn't fade away half as easy. Ugh. Morning, boss. I stumble into the office, feeling like a corpse dragged out of its grave. Coffee. Ritcher? This is the second day in a row you've come in looking like a bedraggled cat. Do we have to have an intervention? Fine, just couldn't sleep. Christ, something's really messed up when Leslie shows up at work before me. He lets out a long, playful sigh, shaking his head before taking a sip of his coffee. Well, don't keep me in suspense. Your escapades last night, of course. What happened? What did you find out? Oh, yeah, right. He's just like, I made out with a crime boss. That's what I did. With my own coffee mug in hand, I sink down into the chair, clearing my throat. Going to have to leave out some of the details here, I think. My new friend, Mr. Mayor Eastman, well, he gave me some information about the powerful mob players in the city. Seems like he's really in the loop. The already pale Leslie seems to suddenly grow a shade paler. He slowly sets down his coffee and leans forward over his desk, brows furrowing as he stares at me. Did you say Eastman? Sure did, boss. Why? Why? Yes? Are you losing your hearing already, boss? You're not that old. Because Eastman is the man running all of Cleveland, that's why! Leslie raises his voice in excitement and frustration, slamming his fist down on the desk. All of Cleveland? Yes, all of Cleveland. I found out about him last night at the party I went to. He's well liked and hugely powerful, and most of Cleveland's Italian mafia is terrified of him. Really? I really thought it was like the opposite. Like the Italian mob was the one who was in charge and like he wanted the Jewish mafia to be on top, so he was just trying to like one up them. I don't know how on earth you managed to get in his good books, but Eastman is the key to taking down the city's liquor business. In fact, I think that speakeasy itself might be the main base. After we get a bit of more information, we should set up a raid. I figured Mayor was powerful, but I had no idea he was running all of Cleveland. Leslie's right, obviously. Our department is supposed to be working with the FBI to enforce Prohibition here, which means shutting down criminal outfits. This should be a huge step forward. If that's the case, then why do I feel so reluctant? It's not like Mayor trusts me, in fact. I'm sure he doesn't, but I can't imagine putting him behind bars. Last night was probably just a game, his attempt to manipulate me onto his side, and yet it didn't feel like that at all. Oi, Ritcher! Are you spacing out? Do you need more coffee? I snap back into a moment, greeted by a curious Leslie staring at me quizzically. No, I was just thinking, boss. We're going about this the wrong way. The wrong way? You have a different idea? When I nod, Leslie tilts his head to the side, motioning me to continue. If there's anything I can give him credit for, it's that he's usually willing to listen to whatever I say, even when I'm the junior partner. Let me keep talking to Eastman. I'll get more details out of him, I promise. We shouldn't throw him in jail, not yet. Leslie stares at me in stunned silence. Does it really sound that strange? I mean, yeah, because it's just like, you're a cop, you're supposed to take down these people, and you're like, hey, let me talk to him more. Even though you have the evidence that, like, he's running an underground, like, brewery and stuff like that. Did you hit your head on your way home last night, Ritcher? This is a mob boss we're talking about. He's dangerous, not only to the next pope. I don't know what he said to you, but you shouldn't believe him. Just because he hasn't killed you yet doesn't mean he won't. Once you outlive your usefulness. Haven't you thought about that? His frustration, skeptical words echo in my own thoughts, as much as I hate to admit it. Maybe it's stupid to try to deny them, but before I can control myself, I blurt out the first thing that comes to mind. He's not a murderer machine, Leslie. He's not a one-sided villain who was born bad. Sure, most mobsters out there are ruthless bastards, but so are a lot of normal people. Mafia guys aren't some special breed, evil to the rotten cores. Mayor, he's a businessman. He's using the law for profit, I know that, and I'm not saying I think it's right. But after talking to him, spending time with him, seeing how he's just a guy like any other, I'll be damned if I don't have more sympathy for him, whether a rich old highbinder is handing him out orders for the FBI. Leslie stays quiet, biting his bottom lip, a nervous habit of his, and avoiding my gaze for a time. I never raise my voice at him, nor for anyone else, for that matter. I instantly feel a little sheepish about it, but I didn't know how else to express my change of heart. Finally, Leslie rubs his eyes with one hand and gently sighs. A small smile is twitching at the corner of his lips. He stands up from his desk and walks over, giving me one of those affectionate, "What am I gonna do with you, kid?" I guess I'm not that surprised. You've always been compassionate and honest, probably why you're a terrible liar. He pauses, reaching out to gently ruffle my hair. There's still a worry crease in his brow, but I think he's just trying his hardest to believe me. If you really, really think this man isn't out to just screw us over, and he'll be of use to the investigation somehow, then I suppose I'm willing to go along with it, for a little while at least. Boss! A little while, I said. Hey, what? I jump out of my chair and pull Leslie into a hug, tightly squeezing him in his wiry frame. He stiffens for a moment, but eventually wraps his arm around me too, softly patting my back. I sure hope you know what you're doing, Richter. If something ever happened to you, well, let's just say I have a hard enough time living with myself already. Why, because you're so high maintenance? Exactly. You know how many times a day I have to feed myself? It's very difficult, and having the guilt on my shoulder won't help a thing. Won't help things any. I'll be fine, boss. Don't worry about me. As we pull apart, I gaze down into Leslie's face for a moment. He still doesn't look very convinced. And it's perfectly reasonable. We're paid to be suspicious. I'll bring him around the idea eventually, if everything works out. He's open-minded just about anything. Just give him time. Except vegetables, maybe. After we discuss things a little more, Leslie and I settle about our usual routine of paperwork, calls, and more paperwork. It's not like our work normally flies by, but today the hours seem especially long. At last, evening rolls around. When I head outside, my feet start to take me down a familiar road before I even realize it. Welcome, sir. Please enjoy your night. Loud music rushes over me in a wave. The familiar sea of dancers, lights, and sparkling glasses. This place is starting to grow on me. To my surprise, I spot Mayo already standing by the bar, a cup of coffee in hand, as he chats with the bartender. Should I go up to him? I don't want to come off as too strong. Maybe I should casually spike up a conversation with someone else and wait for... Just as I mull over my plan, Mayer's gaze meets mine. He instantly breaks into a warm smile, beckoning me over. Phew. I don't have to, pretend that I'm not into him. I wander over towards the bar and step up beside him, clearing my throat to buy time as I figure out what to say. Well, it seems like my detective wandered back to me. Did your flock of officers decide to come along today too? No, I left them at home with the sitter. Good. I can't tell you how disappointed I was when they decided to interrupt. Interrupt us making out! His suggestive airy murmur sends a tingle down the back of my neck. At least I wasn't the only one who was disappointed. Yeah, well, I was really looking forward to the rest of that cake. I'm afraid I enjoyed the rest of it by myself, but I was thinking of you all the while. Does that make you feel any better? Not one bit. Mayer lets out one of his deep chuckles, low and comforting. It always seems like his sly, evasive mask melts away for a split second whenever he laughs, betraying something vulnerable. Listen, Richard, if you prefer, we can always linger out here and talk. As much as I want to savor all of you in private, I'm more than happy to just enjoy your company, discussing whether flights of fancy we have. I probably shouldn't have said that. I imagine my seductive air of mystique is all but ruined for you now. Seduction? No, I haven't even. Never mind. His leg lightly brushes mine underneath the bar and out of sight. He's so bold, this guy. Damn, this guy, he's playing footsie already? Jesus. I can see how he got his line of work, no doubt about that. Actually, I just wanted to ask you something more serious. Actually, I wanted to ask you some more serious questions. Privacy might work better, just, you know, as precaution. Oh, of course. I have no doubt that your reasons are entirely... someone screaming? It's the cops! And at that moment... What? The speakeasy door flies open and a small group of officers rush in. Screams echo through the parlor after the music cuts off, but the cacophony quickly goes silent. Easton's men can't even reach for their guns. The officers are already aiming their own. What happened? Leslie probably just, like, said that to, like, you know, leave it, like, get us out of the way and then he can take care of it. I think that's what he did. At the head of the group stands Leslie. Ritcher! The second our eyes meet, he rushes over to me, releasing a huge sigh of relief. Ritcher, thank God you're not hurt. I thought for sure that... We had an agreement, Leslie, didn't we? How can you just storm in here after me? Don't you trust me? When I manage to choke on an accusation, Leslie just shakes his head, eyes narrowed. It's not just about trust, Richter. It's not even about the job. To hell with the information gathering. The thing I care about most is keeping you safe. You're too honest, too trusting, and I can't just let you run around with people like this, even for the sake of an investigation. He gestures at Mayor angrily, apparently having guessed his identity already. Leslie was really that worried about me? He's in love with you, dude. You didn't know this? I knew that he was still concerned. I just didn't think he'd go this far. Awkward. Mayor, who's been entirely silent this whole time, watches us with a careful, measured expression. How can he be so calm? He had no idea this was going to happen, did he? Gentlemen, I believe there has been some severe miscommunication. Please, Mr. Leslie, tell your men to lower their weapons. Then we can discuss things calmly, without the threat of an accidental bloodshed. Agreed? Leslie hesitates. There's a very strange degree of trust going on here, but I get the sense that neither of them wants it to end in violence. I know Leslie hates hurting anyone, even criminals, and Mayor doesn't seem the type to enjoy it either. Understood. He signals the officers, who slowly, reluctantly lower their guns. The tension in the room eases a little bit, though it's still far from calm. Let me say first, Mr. Leslie, that I entirely understand your concern for your partner's safety. But you see, after our friend Richter here had shown up the other night, I was struck with an idea. I knew he was a detective before he so much as walked into the door of your informants working for me, so I decided to have a chat with him. You mean, back there, that was... Don't get me wrong, Richter, I was enjoying every second of it, but I've been looking for a way to work in an agreement in the law of Cleveland for some time. You're a hard-headed sort here, so let me tell you. He exhales a breath between his teeth, gently shaking his head. Richter, however, I could tell that he was made of something different, not so hell-bent on enforcing the Volstead Act, yet not just the type to be brought either. I was intrigued, so I thought I'd try to work out a deal, as in my way. Last night was supposed to be the beginning of that deal, but... Well, I was enjoying the company so much that I thought myself, what harm can it be when I wait a little longer? When Mayor's glimmering eyes settle on me, I feel my heart skip a beat, maybe several. He invited me back to make a deal, but it spiraled into something more because he enjoyed my company? Aha! Well, I mean, that was kind of obvious. You know, he's just like, he's a cute young detective, aren't I? Just like, have some fun. I think that's what he's thinking. So you really believe we wouldn't try to arrest you? It was a calculated risk, of course. Mayor casually waves one hand. The way he keeps this kind of sang-froid, even when he's surrounded by the law, is no wonder he's a leader. Literally, cold blood in French refers to someone who acts cool and composed in tough circumstances. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I like to make big gambles, and usually they pay off. But I've done my research on your backgrounds, your past jobs. I knew you wouldn't simply raid on my venue without showing a few of your cards first. So, you could say the chips landed where I thought they might. Leslie rubs his cheek with a hand, blinking rapidly, as if to try to understand everything that we just heard. I can't blame him. I knew Mayor was sharp, but I had no idea he had planned everything ahead of time. Well, I mean, that explains why he runs Cleveland, right? He's the biggest crime boss. You know, even though we were the ones with our guns out, I can't shake this feeling that we were played right into your hand. You really do live up to your reputation, don't you? I was expecting Leslie to be furious, but instead he sounds more impressed than anything. Is it possible that he actually took some of my words to heart back in the office? You mentioned a deal earlier. Care to explain what kind of deal we're talking about? Ah, I was hoping you'd ask that. A particularly satisfied smirk curls over Mayor's lips, the type a man wears when he's just won at cards. Why don't we discuss matters privately on neutral ground? I'll even let you pick the spot, all of us disarmed, with a few of our men waiting outside. Leslie grabs my sleeve and pulls me aside, leaning up to whisper in my ear. You really trust him enough for this? Normally I'd say it's suicide, but this Mayor, he's not like any other man I've ever met. It's like talking to the chief of a big corporation, not a mafia leader. He scratches his head, clearly baffled. It's not like I can blame him. I felt the same way when I first met Mayor the other night. I know he doesn't mean any us harm. I know he doesn't mean us any harm, boss. He's still a gangster, I can't deny that, but... I pause slowly. I pause, swallowing. Better word things delicately, or else Leslie might catch on. I think he genuinely wants to work out a deal with all of us. All of this would be way too much trouble otherwise. My thoughts exactly. You think we should hear him out then? Without hesitation, I nod. Maybe it's an incredible stupid decision, but I can't bring myself to believe all of the last night was just a means to an end. If you don't mind me saying, Mr. Leslie, I gather you're type to take precautions. Mayor pipes up an airy, and we both glance over towards him. Should you two not show up in perfect health tomorrow, I'm certain I'll have a big hassle in my hands, and that's not what I want, I assure you. You really did do your research, didn't you? It's a favorite hobby of mine. So that means you know what size underwear Ritcher wears? Boss! I'm afraid you'll have to barter for that information. Oh, you drive a hard bargain, do you? I like that. Great. Just great. After a little more discussion, the three of us settle into the hotel room for our meeting spot. The unfortunate patrons who have witnessed all of that, well, they're sent home and promised free drinks when they come back. In this day and age, that's probably enough to risk being shot. Once that mess is sorted out, the three of us head into the hotel with our respective men. I can't even begin to imagine how tonight will end, but I have to hope that for the best. To be continued! Hey! So this is the first route, like I said in the beginning. Each route continues into another part of the story, so pick a different choices and play through Leslie's route. Both routes lead to one ending, and you'll need to understand both sides of the story. Back to the first choice. Okay. Unless both sides win, no agreement can be permitted. Jimmy Carter. Very interesting. I actually like the concept of that. So that comes to the end of Mayor's route, you guys. So in the next video, I will start Leslie's route so we can understand the other side of the story and finally get the ending to all of this. And I assume the ending is going to be them in the hotel working out a deal and stuff like that. So yeah, that was very interesting. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like. Let me know in the comments what you think. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button so you know when I upload the next episode for your Dry Delight. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!
I'll serve it. Okay, guys, serve it. Not that, fuck you.
Did that push you? Word or develop another character. Video game deaths can be tragic. Here are 6 sad character deaths from video games. Roman, Grand Theft Auto 4.